This screencast gives an overview of skeletal muscle fibers. Remember that a muscle fiber is a muscle cell. So when you talk about a muscle cell, we just call them muscle fibers when we're talking about muscles. Muscle fibers or muscle cells are long cylinders with rounded ends, and they might extend the whole length of the muscle. So if you look at this here, you can see this is a muscle fiber, then this is a muscle fiber, this is a muscle fiber, and so on. So you have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 muscle fibers that are running end to end here. So they're a lot different, perhaps, from the cells that you may normally look at or you may be expected to seeing as a stereotypical cell. These are long and skinny. In a muscle fiber, the cell membrane is called the sarcolemma. So sarcolemma is a special name for the cell membrane of a muscle fiber. The cytoplasm in a muscle fiber is called the sarcoplasm. Additionally, you have many nuclei and many mitochondria. So you can't see the mitochondria in this diagram, but these dark purple spots that are lined up mostly on the outsides between the cells are the nuclei. So each of these dark splotches, is a nucleus, and so you can see the nuclei are all kind of lined up. We need a lot of mitochondria because, as we remember, mitochondria produce energy, and muscle cells need lots and lots of energy, so they have lots and lots of mitochondria. Now let's look at the structure of a muscle fiber. So within the sarcoplasm, you have even tinier bundles called myofibrils. The sarcoplasmic reticulum is a different name for the endoplasmic reticulum, and it's going to surround myofibrils. So here, again, this big bundle that we have here is one muscle fiber, and then each of these bundles here are myofibrils. So you do have the sarcoplasmic reticulum that goes around here. You can see it's like a tubey network that goes all the way around the right underneath the sarcolemma, and then you have myofibrils that are within the cell. Myofibrils are integral to muscle contraction. When we talk about muscle contraction, we'll talk about the role of the filaments that are found within the myofibrils. So, if we go back here real quick, this whole bundle, big bundle here, is one muscle fiber. Then you have myofibrils within that, and then you have myofilaments within that. So when we're looking at the myofibrils, within them, they have two main types of protein filaments. The first one are thick filaments. These are made up of myosin. Then you have thin filaments. The thin filaments are mainly made up of actin, but they also have troponin and tropomyosin on them as well. And so this alternation of filaments is what's going to produce striations. Remember, striations are these up and down perpendicular changes in color from dark to light, these bands. And so we're going to learn what produces those bands now. So the functional unit of muscle contraction is called a sarcomere. Sarcomeres repeat along each muscle fiber and join end to end in order to form a myofibril within the muscle fiber. So here you have one right here, sarcomere. Here you have another sarcomere. Then here's the start of another sarcomere. And they all line up end to end in order to produce this myofibril. Within this sarcomere, you can see there are these darker, thicker purple bands. Those are myosin or thick filaments. And these kind of lighter purple bands that are held together by a zigzag are actin or thin filaments. So you have, again, these myofilaments, thick and thin, coming together as part of this long myofibril that is then found within this muscle cell, which is called a muscle fiber. When we look at the sarcomere, there are many different parts. There's a separate video on this playlist about how to draw a sarcomere that I think is really helpful so that you can really see the differences as you draw it yourself. When we look at a sarcomere, there are lots of different parts. We can see here you have a zigzaggy line. That is called the Z line. From one Z line to the next Z line is one sarcomere. So the sarcomere is between Z line and Z line. Then this is half of another sarcomere that would be over here, and then this is half of another sarcomere that would be over here. Then attached to the Z line, you have thin actin filaments. Again, they're actin that have tropomyosin and troponin on them, and so you have your actin, which are these lighter bluish purple filaments. Then here you have your M line. Your M line has myosin on them. So these are myosin, these kind of darker pinkish purple thick fibers. So these are myosin. You're also going to have different sections, different bands. So you have here, this is called the H zone, which is within the A band. The A band runs the length of the myosin. As you can see here, this is going to be the darkest because it has overlapping actin and myosin, where in here, in the H zone, which is part of the A band, you only have myosin. Then here you have the I band. The I band is lighter, as you can see here, because it is just the thin actin filaments. Again, I would suggest after watching this that you go watch the video that shows you how to draw a sarcomere and even draw along with it. I think that will really help clarify understanding of a sarcomere. Again, if we go back to here, we can see that we've got the muscle. Then you have the fascicle. Within the fascicle, you have lots of different muscle fibers, which are also, that's the special name for muscle cells. You have each of these little myofibrils that are within one big muscle fiber, and within the myofibrils, you have filaments. You have thin filaments, mostly made of actin, and you have thick filaments made of myosin.